Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the kickoff webinar for the Cyber-Survivability AI Assurance Assessment event. My name is Aisha Haider, and I'm the Tech Transfer Program Manager here at the Doolittle Institute. In case this is your first time working with the Doolittle Institute or the Air Force Research Lab Munitions Directorate, also called AFRL RW, an assessment event consists of AFRL RW putting out a call to industry for novel technologies or capabilities in a specific research area. A technical point of contact from the lab then down selects the submissions and chooses the ones that best align with mission and technical priorities. We are kicking off our assessment event today with a presentation by Ms. Juanita Riley, who is the technical point of contact for the Cyber-Survivability research area at AFRL RW. Ms. Riley is going to discuss the specific capabilities sought, as well as the context in which they will be used. This webinar is being recorded and may be viewed at a later time, and we may also have some time for Q&A at the end of the presentation. At this time, please ensure that you are muted, and if you have any questions, please post them in the chat box. Over to you, Ms. Riley.
All right, thank you, Aisha. So good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking the time and having an interest in listening to the Assured Artificial Intelligence for Cyber Effects. We can move to the next slide, please. So the purpose of this project that we're interested in the weapons cyber section of AFRL Munitions Directorate is that we want to build a foundational, basic to applied research and technology that we're able to enhance for various operational problems, gaps, and requirements for our munition program management office, our munition customers and community, and so forth. So with this, there's a lot of interest, as most of you know, with artificial intelligence and autonomy, which are two different things. So we are looking for the autonomous systems that are AI enabled, whether they be semi-autonomous or full autonomous and so forth. Most of the systems that we work with now are primarily semi-autonomous systems. So just to give you a little bit of overview of our W mission priorities, you see the 6 priorities that RW has for the 2024 fiscal year. So if you look at the expand autonomy R&D and the foundational S&T weapon components, those are the 2 areas that this Assured AI project falls underneath. So we are looking to couple autonomy with some cyber to make sure that the system has the intelligence to maneuver in an intelligent way and be able to adapt an evolving environment, but also have the type of capabilities, whether it be cyber defensive or cyber offensive. When we go offensive, that is when the Munitions Directorate works with our Information Directorate up in Rome, New York, to make sure we have those proper integrated capabilities. So as Aisha said, this is the Munitions Directorate of the Air Force Research Laboratory. We are located in Northwest Florida. Our job is to ensure that we're putting the right type of capabilities and we're doing the weapon science and foundational work for our munition, which is our primary product within the Air Force. Next slide, please. Okay, so to give you a little bit of some definitions, so everybody can be on the same accord, especially for those who are planning to submit to us and so forth. So when I talk about cyber survivability, I am coupling cybersecurity with cyber resilience in order to meet certain attributes. So when we talk about cyber resilience, we're talking about a system that is able to take a hit, come down, and then come back at a better known state. But that better known state will provide you with the specified amount of time that the system is needed to operate quickly. If you have defined that for your own technology or research, then that's something that we would be interested in knowing, so that when it comes to integration down the road with an actual weapon system, we'll know what those computational integration certain risks will be. When we're talking about cybersecurity, we're talking about the prevention of something happening. In some respects, especially with the munition, we cannot afford to have any mistakes, so it has to be robust. And that's where we get into the cyber assurance piece, where we are making sure that we have designed it and we understand it from not just the executable, but from the object and the binary level, that we have no vulnerabilities, because we cannot afford failure into the system. There are spaces within a munition where you can be a little bit more resilient, And that's where we, as the government SMEs, will inform whoever we select out of this. And we plan to make a few selections with this project. We will provide you with those performance parameters and so forth. I just wanted to be clear. And when you hear cyber survivability or cybersecurity or resilience, what do we mean in the weapon cyber section? Next slide, please. Okay, so on this slide, these are the capability areas that we are primarily interested in. No, you do not have to have a technology or research that is going to hit all of these areas, but they should primarily hit most when you are designing a technology in the autonomous space and so forth. So for the Assured AI project, think of it as a consortium of universities and companies with various research and development and technology that we're going to eventually modify and enhance to meet a particular mission, operational requirement, and so forth. So in the meantime, when we talk about autonomy, I am talking about a system that is able to perceive, learn, and act in an evolving, contested, highly complex, sometimes open-ended environment. So that is what I mean by autonomy. Next slide, please. So with an autonomous system, there are usually three main attributes or capabilities I look for. I want to make sure that the system has trustworthiness. So you're going to hear a lot about trustworthy AI. So I'm pretty sure many of you are probably skilled or doing research in that area where you want to make sure that whatever type of artificial intelligent algorithm or software application technology that you are developing, that is ethical, that is lawful, that it will pretty much do no harm, and so forth. So I also pay attention to the technical approach and the architecture that is presented to me. So I will be looking out for that. Functional correctness. This is just making sure that your system is doing what it's intended to do. So if you present me with certain inputs, we're gonna make sure that the output is what it should be. And if it's not, then of course you as a proposer should be aware and should have documented that somewhere as risk within there. Trying to make sure that you understand completely what you have developed and how you have developed it, and to make sure that we understand that too. So when we go into integrating this with an already legacy system or new system, that we have an idea of what our integration risks are going to be and what we may have to develop or enhance on top of it. When it comes to safety, this goes without question. You have an autonomous system that's going to be in a military application, a military weapon system that is going out to do some type of mission within a battlefield or other type of operational space and so forth. So safety goes without question. When you develop a capability that is AI enabled, have you done the reverse engineering to make sure that it is safe? Do you understand how an adversary can penetrate or disrupt what you have developed? How does that safety also act with whatever cyber capabilities and hardening that you have done within the system based on the threats and the potential vulnerabilities that the program of record that you're going to integrate in may have? A lot of that information we will of course provide and be working, but while you're developing your technology or whatever you plan to propose, that is an area we're going to be thinking about too, is the safety. Have they considered certain safety considerations? Have they pointed out maybe some safety risks based on the type of performance or capability they're proposing? Next slide, please. So adversarial machine learning, this is of course understanding if you're proposing something in this area, this is of interest to not only the Munitions Directorate, but also other directorates within AFRL that we may also reach out to and collaborate with this particular project. So we're not doing this siloed. We will also be, depending on what we get, looking at our other AFRL, cyber personnel, autonomy personnel, and AI SMEs that we have within the organization, because this is an area that we are concerned when we are developing machine learning algorithms are deriving new algorithms and computation based off some of these old ones because we're trying to speed them up. Because a lot of the machine learning algorithms for some of our weapon systems in our battlefield today are a little slow. So there's a lot of great research that's going on out there and a lot of great research and technology I know that we're going to see, from various offerers from this, that if you're in the adversarial, how can the adversary actually penetrate your algorithm? Have you thought about that? And if so, what are the various techniques that you have developed? So we will be looking into this as well. Of course, all of this deals with risk. I'm always interested when an offerer has explained the risk to their system, but have also explained the benefit of the performance or capability that they're developing. So please do not be afraid to address any risks that may come along with your technology. Next slide, please. So data security and data integrity. Depending on the weapon system or the application, it may just be the data that we're looking at securing internally, externally. If it's connecting to another system, how is it connecting? What the information sharing domain is. This is where the cyber capabilities come into play that also mixes with the artificial intelligence. So any type of technology that you have that is addressing data integrity, whether it's data in use, data stored, data in transit, how are you protecting that at each of those data triads? And then data security too, the overall wrapper of all the data and how it's being secured. Next slide. So with zero trust, low trust, I'm pretty sure this is a buzzword that many of you have heard and probably have technology and research in. So I will tell you this, when it comes to zero trust and low trust, understanding the computation, and every time, depending on the component that you choose, how many times you authenticate, how many times it has to authorize, all of that is spinning cycles into our weapon systems. And within a munition, you have really constrained resources. You have certain timing constraints that we have to think about. So when you are presenting something with zero trust, as we know, that's not just one thing, that is several capabilities, several techniques to ensure that the software can execute, to ensure that the hardware is okay and so forth within the system. Just be clear on what your design, what your techniques are. And if you do have numbers, because you have tested it on something before, we would be interested in knowing that. Counter AI, we want to make sure that from the entire AI perspective, that any type of countermeasures that the adversary can do, that we have somewhat of a counter AI strategy or technique to mitigate it and so forth. So with this may roll over into a classified white paper submission. Please check the BAA. We do have instructions on how to send classified. So do not limit yourself and thinking that you cannot submit classified submissions, because you can. And there's instructions for that in the BAA. Next slide, please. So with anti-fragility, this is somewhat of a new concept that we're very interested in too. This is where the system using AI capabilities is able to learn from whatever hardware, software, any type of cyber attack or other types of attacks within the system and be able to improve and get better. So this is different from resilience, where resilience goes back to a good known state, anti-fragility improves and continues to learn. So we're interested in capabilities research in that particular area. Of course, with test and evaluation. So with cyber, we always say you got to test early and you got to test often. There is always trades between performance and having something secure or something cyber. When you add artificial intelligence into that, that is also another trade. And so that is the exciting part about this project, is being able to find that common ground and produce that innovative, disruptive capability provided to one of our munition partners and send it out to the battlefield to win the day. So I gave you a little bit of the capability areas that we're looking for. If you have technology, if you're doing deep learning, reinforcement learning, any type of machine learning, if you've discovered or have done a different type of learning or algorithm. Genetic algorithms, I have seen some really interesting white papers on people using genetic algorithms that have a faster computation than some of our machine learning algorithms. With this, as well as cyber capabilities that you have, understanding we have this particular collaborative algorithm that we are using AI for, but we also have to make sure that we have the appropriate data integrity. Explain those dynamics that you have developed and how you have, and you know, from your technical approach, what type of risk they may bring and what you think is the best way to test it and so forth. So I say all that to say, be innovative, be creative, push the boundaries a little bit. We are looking for that when you are submitting to me. And as time goes on, we would determine what those bounds and scopes are for the particular weapon system that we're looking at. So the weapon cyber team is excited. Turn to the next slide, please. So these are the team members under weapon cyber. Lieutenant Jonathan Ford is the section chief. Melody Wilkinson will actually be the project lead for the Assured AI, and I will be her principal investigator on this, making sure that all the tech is going that we select and so forth is going to actually meet some of the operational problems, gaps, and requirements and needs that we have been looking at. Next slide. So with that said, I know this is a 30-minute time slot, so I really wanted to get through with that so that you can ask any questions, any clarification. I do not mind going back over any particular capability area, providing examples and so forth. So I'm going to send it over to you.
There's a question in the chat that says, is AI deep learning a required component of a proposal submitted to this program?
It's not a required component that has to be submitted, but we are looking for autonomous submissions that have thought about, that are using AI capabilities, which AI, there's like 7 different branches underneath there. You can choose one. If you have an expert system, for example, I would be interested in seeing that approach and being able to read about that. And then also from a cyber perspective, how you would make sure what type of capabilities or techniques you have under that umbrella to defend against adversarial AI or to ensure that your particular capability is secure.
Our next question, does the solution need to be focused on a particular weapon system? What TRL does the solution need to be within?
So the weapon systems we mainly use are the various Air Force class of munition systems. And if you go to, I believe the website is airforceweapons.com, it will have all of the class of Air Force weapons and information about them if you're unfamiliar with the munition. TRL level, so we can go as low as our early 4, and then we'll like something that's a mature 5, maybe bleeding over into a 6. So let me explain that a little bit. So something that's at a TRL 6, you are pretty much primed and pumped. If your advanced capability is modular, meaning if I need to add something or take something out of it in order to fit a requirement, then you should also submit. But we are looking for stuff that we can enhance upon and so forth.
Our next question, is stability of high power pulse weapons an area of interest?
Repeat that question.
Is stability of high power pulse weapons an area of interest?
Yes.
Is software source code vulnerability in scope?
Yes.
Is there any guidance as to the funding levels and period of performance? Will this be CPFF/FFP/OT based?
So I cannot go into the contractual. It all depends on what has been proposed.
Is data security, trustworthiness, zero trust applicable to hardware components of the system, such as chips? And the solutions to detect and mitigate such injuries applicable?
Yes.
Can these solutions be focused on AI accelerator hardware and its security?
Yes.
Does understanding of ML-based cyber threats, new attacks, etc., fall into the purview of this work?
Yes.
Is this call or white paper only restricted to citizens? If yes, can non-citizens faculty join as co-PI?
I will answer that question on behalf of Ms. Riley. For questions such as that again pertain to the contractual aspects of this, I would recommend that you visit our event page, which we have shared in the chat, and we will, again, before this webinar is over, there is an email address there that you can reach out to with questions such as this. It will go directly to contracting and they will be able to provide you with an answer.
Our next question. Is it in scope to provide an evaluation methodology for responsible / assured AI?
Is it, so they're asking, can they submit an evaluation framework?
I believe so.
Okay.
Is it in scope to provide an evaluation methodology for responsible / assured AI?
So if you're talking about maybe, so when I hear framework, I'm thinking some type of process or guidelines or rules when one is developing a technology. If that is what you're asking, that's not exactly what I'm looking for. If it's not, then reach out to me for more discussion so I can get a better understanding.
Someone has asked, can we submit more than one solution?
Yes, you can submit more than one solution.
What about resilient / secure platforms for cyber physical systems that may or may not have an AI capability?
So under research area 19, yes, you can submit.
If we submit a white paper by February 16th, how long does the evaluation process take before we hear from you?
I believe that timeline is 3 weeks.
So the submission period runs from January 29th to February 16th.
Right.
I believe the question is asking, once the submissions have been collected post February 16th, how long will the down selection process take?
So normally that takes us, it really depends on the amount of submissions we get. So yeah, I'm gonna say it depends, but I do not foresee it going no longer than like 2 weeks. But it does depend on the amount of submissions.
Will specific metrics or performance requirements be provided for each topic? Can the metrics be self-determined? Example, fidelity of AI / ML models, etc.
So you can determine your own metrics. For the ones that we do select, then that's when, once we get a better understanding of their technology and we start to actually work it after contract award, then you would be able to get more information about the particular customer KPPs and so forth. But in the beginning, you can determine your own metrics.
Is integrating explainability and reliability measures of these explainability for vision-based algorithms in scope?
Yes.
Are platforms for continuous monitoring of adversarial attacks within scope?
Yes.
That is all the questions that we have.
That is all the questions.
Oh, wow. There's some very good questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Riley, for that fantastic presentation. I know I learned a lot. Thank you to everybody that joined us. Thank you for all those great questions. I would like to remind you that we will begin accepting submissions starting the 29th of January, and the submission period will run until February 16th. I would highly recommend visiting the event webpage to learn more about the submission process. And a recording of this presentation will also be available on that same page, either later today or early tomorrow morning. If you have any questions, for the Doolittle Institute or would just like to learn more about working with the Air Force Research Lab Munitions Directorate, please send us an email at techtransfer@doolittleinstitute.org to schedule a one-on-one meeting. Ms. Riley, again, thank you so much for your time. And we look forward to receiving innovative and groundbreaking submissions from businesses and universities. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.